shadows and silhouettes the gentle whir of Amelia. Bennett's vintage sewing machine filled her small studio apartment as afternoon lights spilled through dusty windows. Her fingers, calloused from years of needlework, guided iridescent fabric beneath the needle with practiced precision. At 32, Amelia had built a modest reputation in Philadelphia's arts district for her textile sculptures. Fabric art that seemed to capture emotion in its folds and textures. "You're still working on that?" Dominic Reed's voice cut through. The rhythm of her creation stood in the doorway, his tall frame impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than 3 months of her rent. "It's commissioned," Amelia replied without looking up. "The gallery opening is next week." Dominic crossed the room, careful not to brush against any of the fabric pieces hanging from the ceiling. "I remember when your work was just a hobby," he said, placing a coffee beside her. Before we met, their eyes caught in the reflection of her small work mirror. 3 years together, and sometimes Amelia still couldn't believe someone like Dominic had fallen for her. He worked as marketing director for Rossi House, one of the most exclusive design houses on the East Coast. His world was sleek minimalism and calculated elegance. Hers was chaotic creativity and passionate expression. "The Sullivan account is mine," Dominic announced, loosening his tie. "They want Rossi to handle their entire rebranding." Amelia stopped her work and turned. "Dom, that's amazing. That's the luxury hotel chain you've been pursuing for months." His smile was bright but distracted as he checked his phone. "Dinner. At Valentina's tonight? The entire executive team will be there?" "Tonight?" Amelia glanced at her half-finished commission. "I don't think I can. I know. Your art." His tone was gentle, but tinged with something that made Amelia's stomach tighten. "It's probably better anyway. These dinners are all shop talk." Yes. Amelia remembered a time when Dominic would proudly introduce her to his colleagues, when he would describe her work with genuine admiration. That had changed gradually, like colors fading in strong sunlight. "When did we start living separate lives?" she asked quietly. Dominic sighed, crossing to stand behind her. He placed his hands on her shoulders, his reflection joining hers in the mirror. "We're just busy, Leah. Different worlds sometimes. They didn't used to be so different." He kissed the top of her head. "I'll make it up to you. Maybe we can get away this weekend. Just us." But his phone buzzed again, and the moment dissolved. Amelia returned to her sewing as Dominic retreated to the bedroom to take his call. Their conversation faded into the background like so many others. Later that evening, after Dominic had left for his dinner, Amelia found herself at the window of their apartment, watching the city lights blur through a light rain. Her phone lit up with a text from her friend Gemma. "He's pulling away," Amelia confessed when they met at a corner cafe an hour later. "I feel like I'm becoming an inconvenience." Gemma stirred her tea thoughtfully. "Have you talked to him about it?" "Every time I try, there's a meeting or a client or a crisis." Amelia traced the rim of her mug. "Sometimes I think he's embarrassed. By me. By what I do." "That's ridiculous," Gemma protested. "Your work is beautiful." "Beautiful doesn't always translate in his world." Amelia smiled sadly. "You should see the women he works with. They're all so polished." "And you're authentic," Gemma countered. "That used to be what he loved about you." Amelia nodded, remembering their first meeting at a community art fair. Dominic had spent an hour at her booth, fascinated by her textile narratives. He'd called her work tangibly emotional and asked her to dinner that same night. Now, 3 years later, she wondered if that fascination had been merely a novelty that had worn thin. As raindrops raced down the cafe window, Amelia couldn't shake the feeling that she and Dominic were becoming like two fabrics pulling apart at the seams, still connected, but the threads between them growing ever more strained. Frayed Agesta Rossi House Winter Showcase transformed the Philadelphia Museum of Art's East Wing into a temple of high fashion. Amelia stood in the periphery, feeling out of place despite the vintage designer dress Dominic had insisted she wear. "Just for tonight," he had said, his eyes assessing her as one might a project in need of refinement. 3 months had passed since their conversation in her studio. The distance between them had only widened. Dominic's success with the Sullivan account had accelerated his rise within Rossi House, his calendar filled with exclusive events and private meetings. While Amelia's invitations to join him grew increasingly rare, tonight was different, a major industry event where Valentina Rossi herself would unveil the house's new direction. Dominic needed to present a complete picture of success, and that included having his longtime girlfriend at his side. "Remember, Valentina values sophistication above all else," he whispered as they entered the grand hall. "Just follow my lead." Amelia nodded, swallowing her retort. The woman who once boldly wove unconventional materials into provocative textile art now found herself tiptoeing through conversation, careful not to reveal too much of her authentic self. The evening progressed in a blur of air kisses and surface-level conversation. Dominic worked the room masterfully, his hand occasionally finding the small of Amelia's back to guide her toward or away from particular groups. She felt like an accessory carefully chosen but ultimately interchangeable. "You've been with Dominic?" "For some time now," remarked a sleek woman who introduced herself as Josephine, head of public relations. "What is it you do again, dear?" Before Amelia could answer, Dominic smoothly interjected, "Amelia creates textile art, very niche, very specialized." "How fascinating," Josephine replied with practiced interest. "Is it commercially viable?" "More expression than commerce," Amelia began, but Dominic chuckled, cutting her off. "Amelia's work is her passion, not her profession. She's quite content in her little studio world." Something in his tone, the slight condescension, the dismissive affection made Amelia's chest tighten. She excused herself, needing air, and wandered toward a quieter corner of the exhibition. There, beside an elaborate display of Rossi's signature accessories, she overheard Dominic's voice from behind a decorative partition, becoming a bit of a liability, to be honest he was, saying to someone, "She's sweet, incredibly talented in her own way, but frankly embarrassing in these circles. You saw her tonight completely out of her depth. She seems genuine," replied a male voice Amelia didn't recognize. "That's refreshing." "Genuine doesn't get you noticed by Valentina," Dominic countered. "I need someone who understands this world, who can help elevate my position. Not someone I have to constantly explain and apologize for." The words landed like blows. Amelia steadied herself against the wall, her vision blurring with unshed tears. 3 years of supporting his dreams, of compromising her time and her art, reduced to an embarrassment, a liability. She slipped away from the event without saying goodbye, leaving Dominic to discover her absence when it suited him to remember. She existed. Back in her studio that night, surrounded by the honest expression of her work, Amelia made a decision. She would no longer diminish herself to fit into the negative space of someone else's life. By morning, she had packed her essential belongings and left a note on Dominic's pillow. "I heard you last night. You're right, I don't belong in your world. But that doesn't mean I don't belong. Don't try to find me. I need to rediscover who I am without your shadow." Over the following weeks, Amelia threw herself into her art with renewed purpose. She moved into a small apartment above an independent bookstore, owned by Gemma's uncle, and transformed the storage room into a makeshift studio. Her work evolved, becoming bolder, incorporating unexpected materials, metal threads, recycled industrial fabrics, even elements of light and shadow. Dominic called repeatedly at first, then occasionally, then not at all. Amelia heard through mutual friends that he had begun dating Penelope Hargrove, a model who frequently represented Rossi House. The news stung, but less than she had expected. Her hands were too busy creating to dwell on what was lost. 6 months. After leaving Dominic, Amelia's new collection, Visible Mending, opened at a small but respected gallery in the Arts District. The pieces explored the beauty of repair, how broken things could be made stronger and more interesting at their points of damage. Critics called her work revelatory and emotionally resonant. She never expected that among the opening night. Visitors would be a striking silver-haired woman with piercing blue eyes who studied each piece with unusual intensity, lingering longest before a textile sculpture entitled "What Remains." "Threads of opportunity, your technique is unusual," a silver-haired woman remarked, startling Amelia, who had been speaking with a potential buyer. "You weave emotion into the fiber itself." Amelia turned, recognition dawning slowly. Before her was Valentina Rossi, not just the founder of Rossi House, but a legendary figure in design circles who had revolutionized sustainable, luxury fashion in the early 2000s. Ms. Rossi, Amelia managed, her pulse quickening. "I thank you, Valentina. Please." The older woman gestured toward the sculpture, an intricate piece where frayed fabric had been meticulously rewoven with gold thread, creating a landscape of brokenness transformed into strength. "This speaks to me. The vulnerability isn't hidden, it's celebrated." They spoke for nearly an hour, Valentina asking pointed questions about Amelia's process, her inspiration, her vision. Nothing about the conversation felt like small talk or obligatory gallery chatter. "I've been searching for something authentic to incorporate into our upcoming sustainability showcase," Valentina finally said. "Something that speaks to renewal without the usual hollow corporate messaging. Would you consider a commission?" Amelia hesitated, memories of Dominic's disparaging words echoing in her mind. "I should mention that I used to be involved with one of your executives, Dominic Reed." Akina's expression remained unchanged. "I'm aware. Dominic is talented at marketing our brand, but his personal judgments are his own." She handed Amelia an embossed card. "My private number. Think about it." 3 days later, Amelia found herself in Valentina's personal Italia converted warehouse space filled with natural light and history. The walls displayed not just fashion, but art spanning decades. Here, far from the sleek corporate headquarters where Dominic worked, Valentina showed Amelia her true vision. "Fashion isn't just about clothing the body," Valentina explained, showing Amelia through her private collection. "It's about expressing the human experience." Lately, Rossi House has lost sight of that too much flash, not enough substance. The commission Valentina proposed was ambitious. A textile installation for the centerpiece of their Paris Sustainability Week presentation. But more shocking was the second part of her offer. "I want your artistic vision to inform a capsule collection," Valentina continued. 5 pieces that interpret your textile art as wearable expressions." Amelia's breath caught. "I'm not a fashion designer. It's precisely why I want you," Valentina countered. "This industry is suffocating under its own conventions. You see beauty where others see flaws. That perspective is invaluable." Over the following weeks, Amelia immersed herself in this new challenge. Valentina introduced her to Rossi's head designer, Thomas Nguyen, who initially regarded her with professional skepticism, but gradually warmed to her innovative approaches. "You're not constrained by what's been done before," Thomas admitted after their third collaborative session. "It's refreshing." Amelia carefully avoided the marketing department's floor during her visits to Rossi House. According to Thomas, Dominic was wholly consumed with the commercial aspects of the sustainability showcase. Unaware of the artistic direction Valentina had chosen to pursue. "He's brilliant at what he does," Thomas remarked once, "but sometimes misses the soul of things." As her installation took shape an immersive environment of textiles that would transform with the movement of the audience, Amelia found herself drawn into Valentina's inner circle. She met the company's original pattern makers, now in their 70s, who shared techniques passed through generations. She traveled to small, family-owned mills that had supplied Rossi for decades. One evening, after reviewing fabric samples in Valentina's office, the older woman poured them each a glass of wine. "Why did you really choose me?" Amelia asked, the question that had lingered for months finally finding voice. Valentina studied her thoughtfully. "Because when I look at your work, I see someone who understands that beauty comes from authenticity, not perfection. My company is losing that understanding." She set down her glass. "And perhaps because I saw something of myself in you, someone who refused to be diminished." As the Paris showcase approached, Amelia's collaboration expanded beyond the installation. 2 of her textile techniques had been adapted into innovative fabric treatments for the main collection. Thomas insisted she attend the final fittings. Her perspective now valued throughout the creative process. The night before their departure for Paris, Amelia received a text from Gemma. "Saw Dominic today. It's been named director of global marketing. Penelope was wearing a massive diamond. Thought you should know. Amelia stared at the message, surprised to find it stirred nothing but a distant melancholy. The woman who had once shaped herself to fit into Dominic's world no longer existed. In her place stood someone who had created her own. Woven intentions Paris embraced, Amelia with the same atmospheric intensity that colored her art. From her hotel window near Place Vendôme, city stretched out like a living canvas, history and modernity interwoven in a textured landscape that changed with each shift of light. Overwhelmed, Thomas, finding her on the balcony the morning after their arrival. The Rossi team had taken over an entire floor of the hotel, the corridors buzzing with the controlled chaos of pre-show preparations. Inspired, Amelia corrected, though in truth, it was both. 3 days remained before the showcase, and while her installation was nearly complete, the transition from artist to collaborative designer had pushed her beyond any creative boundary. She'd previously known the venue, a restored 19th century textile factory in the Marais district, hummed with activity as teams transformed the industrial space according to Valentina's exacting vision. Amelia's installation formed the heart of the experience, a breathtaking canopy of hand-woven fabrics suspended from the ceiling, incorporating sustainable materials and traditional techniques from every region where Rossi operated. As she worked with the installation team, adjusting the tension of each suspended element, Amelia became aware of a commotion near the entrance. Dominic had arrived with his marketing team and a cluster of social media influencers for a preview tour. Remember, the messaging is heritage meets innovation. She overheard him instructing the group. We need these images to dominate the conversation before the actual event. Amelia ducked behind a large structural column, irrationally anxious, despite knowing this encounter was inevitable. Through the gaps in the installation, she watched Dominic in his element, commanding, charismatic, completely assured of his authority. Who designed this central piece? One of the influencers asked, pointed toward Amelia's installation. An independent artist Valentina discovered, Dominic replied smoothly. Part of our commitment to elevating new voices in sustainable design, the impersonal description stripping away her name, her history. Her connection to him felt like the final severing of their past. Amelia stepped out from her hiding place, intent on simply continuing her work, when she locked eyes with Dominic across the space. Recognition, shock, and something unreadable flashed across his face before he composed himself. From his group and approached her, professional smile firmly in place. Amelia, this is ... unexpected. Is it? She continued adjusting the textile panel before her. Valentina has been quite open about the collaboration. With the creative team, perhaps. His voice lowered. You look well, different. She was different, her usual practical attire replaced by pieces Thomas had insisted she'd take from the Rossi archives, her once wild hair now cut into a confident bob that framed her face. But the change went deeper than appearance. I should get back to my group, he said, when she didn't respond. Then more quietly, congratulations on all this. I'm genuinely happy for you. As he walked away, Amelia realized she felt nothing but a calm certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. That evening, during the final review meeting, Valentina made an announcement that silenced the room. The commercial success of this showcase is important, she acknowledged, but its artistic integrity is paramount. That's why I've decided our finale needs something unexpected. Her gaze settled on Amelia. Something authentic. The proposal she outlined was audacious. The showcase would conclude not with a traditional runway finale, but with a living tableau models positioned throughout Amelia's installation, wearing the 5 pieces inspired by her work. And at the center would be a final, previously unannounced piece, worn not by a professional model, but by Amelia herself. Want me to model? Amelia asked incredulously when they were alone. I want you to embody your own vision, Valentina. Corrected. To literally walk through the world you've created. Who better? As dawn broke on the day of the showcase, Amelia stood in Valentina's private atelier, watching as the legendary designer herself made final adjustments to the creation they had developed in secret over the past 2 days. The garment defied conventional categories: part sculpture, part Gone incorporating elements from Amelia's earliest work to her most recent innovations. It's not just a statement piece, Valentina explained, her fingers working with surprising dexterity for a woman in her 70s. It's a statement of purpose. My last major contribution as creative director. Amelia's surprise must have shown, because Valentina smiled knowingly. I haven't announced it yet, but after tonight, I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations. The house needs new energy, new vision. She secured a final element of the garment. I've spent 50 years building Rossi into what it is. Now I need to ensure it doesn't calcify into what it was. Hours later, as invited guests and industry elite filled the venue, Amelia watched from a secluded backstage area as Dominic delivered his opening remarks. Penelope stood in the front row, the promised diamond catching the light with each movement of her hand. They looked perfect together. Power couple crafted for maximum impact. Yet as the showcase unfolded, as audiences moved through the space, experiencing the integration of art and fashion that Valentina had envisioned, Amelia felt no envy, no regret. She had found her own path, one that honored both her art and herself. Ready? Thomas asked, as the final sequence began. Behind him stood Valentina, who would personally escort Amelia through the installation. Amelia nodded, feeling a strange calm settle over her. Ready? The tapestry unveiled the showcase had transcended expectation, evolving from a fashion presentation into an immersive journey through Rossi's reimagined identity. Guests wandered through Amelia's installation, touching, experiencing, and photographing. The integration of art and fashion from every angle. The industry's most jaded critics were overheard using words like revolutionary and transcendent. Backstage, in the moment before her entrance, Amelia closed her eyes and felt the weight of the journey that had brought her here from a small studio in Philadelphia. To this pivotal moment in Paris, the garment she wore felt like a second skin, moving with her rather than restricting. It told her story in textile form, vulnerability transformed into strength, damage rewoven into beauty. Remember, Valentina said quietly beside her, you're not performing, you're simply being. The music shifted, signaling the finale's beginning. Thomas appeared, offering his arm to Valentina in unspoken acknowledgement of her legacy. Together they stepped through the parted curtain, leading the way for what the program simply described as the final vision. Amelia followed, emerging into a space transformed by light and shadow. The audience positioned throughout the installation fell silent as she moved forward. The garment she wore, a sculptural creation that seemed to capture light within its folds, responded to her movement, the embedded filaments creating an ethereal glow that traced her path. She was aware of camera flashes, of whispered reactions, but remained focused on the carefully choreographed route that would take her through the heart of her installation. Halfway through, Valentina and Thomas paused, allowing Amelia to continue. Alone, a symbolic passing of creative vision. Near the final turn, Amelia saw him. Dominic stood with the other executives, his expression a complex mixture of shock, admiration, and something that might have been regret. Beside him, Penelope whispered something in his ear, her expression considerably less impressed. Brief moment, their eyes met. In that suspended second, Amelia saw recognition dawn in Dominic's face, not just of who she was, but of what he had lost. Not a malleable companion who could be shaped to fit his ambitions, but a woman of singular vision and undeniable talent. Amelia continued past him without breaking stride, completing her path to the raised platform where Valentina now stood waiting. She took her position beside the legendary designer. Camera flashes intensified, capturing the image that would appear on fashion publications worldwide, the established icon and the emerging artist, standing as equals. Ladies and gentlemen, Valentina addressed the crowd, her voice commanding immediate attention. Tonight marks not just a new direction for Rossi House, but a new chapter in our legacy. She gestured toward Amelia. Yes. This is Amelia Bennett, the artistic force behind tonight's installation and a significant influence on our new collection. Her vision of authentic beauty of finding, strength in vulnerability, and renewal in what others discard will continue to guide Rossi as we move forward. The announcement that followed sent ripples through the audience. Valentina was appointing Amelia as Rossi's first artist-in-residence, a position created specifically to ensure that authentic artistic vision remained at the company's core. Our marketing will continue to share our story with the world, Valentina continued, with a pointed glance toward Dominic's section. It is our creative heart that must lead the way. The applause was immediate and overwhelming. Fashion editors rushed forward, eager to be the first to secure interviews. Industry insiders who had never given Amelia a second glance now pressed business cards into her hands. Through it all, she maintained her composure, accepting congratulations with genuine gratitude. While remaining firmly anchored in the self-knowledge she had fought so hard to reclaim, hours later, after the last interview and the final glass of champagne, Amelia found a moment of solitude on the venue's rooftop terrace. The Paris skyline glittered before her, a tapestry of light against the darkness. "You've caused quite a stir," came a voice from behind her. Dominic stood in the doorway, his confident posture slightly undermined by the uncertainty in his eyes. "That wasn't my intention," Amelia replied calmly. "Wasn't it?" He moved to stand beside her, careful, to maintain a respectful distance. "I underestimated you. We all did." "You did," she agreed. "But more importantly, I underestimated myself." Silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken history. "Penelope and I," he began, "are perfect for each other," Amelia finished. "For him, I mean that sincerely." Dominic studied her face, searching for the woman he had once known, the one who had molded herself to fit his expectations, who had apologized for her differences. She was gone, replaced by someone who stood firmly in her own power. "I should never have said those things about you," he finally admitted. "You were never embarrassing. I was just too caught up in appearances to appreciate substance." "Thank you for that," Amelia said, genuinely touched by his rare moment of self-awareness. "But you know what? Those words set me free. They hurt deeply, but they forced me to see the truth about us, about myself." The door to the terrace opened again, revealing Valentina. "Ah, Dominic. Good. I need to speak with both of you about the Tokyo expansion." As they followed Valentina back inside, Amelia realized that her story had come full circle. She had entered Dominic's world as an outsider, left it broken-hearted, and returned on her own terms, not as his partner or his equal, but as herself. An artist whose vision spoke directly to the heart of what made fashion truly meaningful. Later that night, in her hotel room, Amelia opened her sketchbook and began drawing ideas for her next creation. Outside her window, Paris continued its eternal dance of light and shadow, reminding her that life, like art, gained its deepest beauty not from perfection, but from the authentic expression of all its complex, interwoven truths. She was no longer walking in anyone else's shadow. She was creating her own light.